share some insight on what the budget is, the details of it. It will be emerging now that the National Assembly and the lawmakers are now looking into the nitty-gritty. Well, let's get a sense, because those who helped the president to prepare the budget will be giving us some insight tonight. I'm being joined on the program tonight by the Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly matter for the House of Representatives, a former member of the House of Representatives on the 9th Assembly, Honorable Ibrahim Kunle-Raju, who joins us virtually from Ado-Ekiti, the Ekiti State capital. Thank you so much, Honorable, for joining us tonight on the program.
Thank you.
We understand from the presentation of the president, but I understand that you have a hand in the preparation of the budget. You know how these all came about. So one would be wondering, the total expenditure that is being proposed by the president, what prompted that? Because you look at the comparison with other countries of the world, our budget in terms of, especially when if you stay in Africa compared to Egypt, South Africa, Kenya, Rwanda, you look at the total expenditure in dollar terms is smaller, although you look at it, that it's about a trillion higher than what we had in 2023, but then it's still lesser compared. But what informed the total expenditure figure that was presented by the president?
Thank you, Sean, for having me. You know, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has a history, he has an antecedent of revamping the economy, developing manpower, and of course, involving in social security to the benefit of the people. And so this is the focus of Mr. President in preparing this budget. Why I agree with you that our budget may be smaller in terms of dollar value of the budget compared to that country, but you equally agree with me when you compare this budget with the previous budget of Nigeria, that is a fairly ambitious budget. And so, because the president wants to focus on revamping our economy, creating more jobs, putting insecurity in checks, and of course, reducing poverty problem in Nigeria, this seems to be the main focus why this budget is prepared this way. Of course, the economic team of the president realized that the only way to take Nigeria out of the drum, particularly the insecurity, is to develop manpower. When you develop manpower, you know, it's the common knowledge that devil's workshop is lazy hands, people who don't have work to do. So if our manpower is developed, people will have meaningful things to do. They will have money in their pocket, and so they'll be dissuaded from committing crimes. And this is the reason behind this particular budget.
No, so you look at it, and those who will say, look, forget those figures, the 27 billion, the 9 trillion, the 8 trillion debt servicing. Forget all of those figures. What the president promised Nigerians is to alleviate the poverty, is to fix infrastructure, is to make their lives better. The question is this budget going to deal with it?
Sure. I am very convinced that this budget will deal with it. You see, we have a problem in our hand, and we don't have to run away from it. And the president is not running away from it. We have a huge debt, debt profile. We have insecurity, and we have a lot of our youth that doesn't have something to do. And so we must start from somewhere. We can't be reading out figures that is not realizable. We must be able to match our revenue with our spending. And you know, even in this budget, we still have borrowing components to be able to implement the budget. However, we must be very careful in ensuring that, unlike other budgets, that we must put in the budget what is realizable, what we can implement, what we know we can do. We don't have to necessarily compare ourselves with other countries because they have very good budget and begin to roll out because unachievable figures. We must be very practical, and this is what this budget tries to ensure. very practical, very focused on the achievables.
So, I mean, you look at the cost of the basics in Nigeria. You look at the cost of bread, the price of garri, the price of rice, which are astronomical now compared to what they were 1-2 years ago. Look at what the president met on the ground, and as soon as the president got on the ground, in fact, look at the dollar and the rates to the naira. It's crazy right now. And people will be asking, why should we bother about 27 trillion naira? That's not our problem. If the president can ensure that the price of bread crashes, the price of garri crashes, they buy petrol at a lesser rate, their lives are better, they have more money in their pocket. These are the assurances Nigerians need, not the prices. In fact, a lot of people don't even care what the figures and these indices are. What they are concerned about is the promise the president made to Nigeria. He said there is renewed hope. He said he's going to take poverty. He said they voted him and he's going to get the job done. The assurances they're asking for today is within 3 months, what will change? 6 months, what will change? What can you tell us in terms of timelines that the president is looking at?
Well, Sean, why I agree with you that things are not very rosy for average Nigerians. All of us are in the shoe, and all of us have this belief that we must change the narratives. And of course, that is why the president has focused this particular budget on solving the basic problem, particularly job creation, poverty reduction, social development. The indices are clear that we have problems in our hand. But like a good warrior, you don't run away from war, you must face it headlong. If you run, you are coming back to it tomorrow. So I can assure you, within the shortest possible time, we will begin to see the effects of this budget. Because like I said earlier on, we must be able to increase the purchasing power of average Nigerians. The dollar rate, the present situation is, there are a lot of reasons that may be adduced to the rate of a dollars to naira now. Speculators, some hoarders, and some other things. And you see, the government is fighting this headlong. You can see the investigation going on in central bank and some other underlying things that may not be known publicly now. But I can assure you, Sean, before the end of this budget year, Nigerians will have cause to smile. It may not be yet, but we will clearly see at the end of the tunnel that there is light.
But now, one of the things that scares some Nigerians is the rate at which this country has borrowed. And that has been done on behalf of the country by past leaders. Now, we are in a doldrum. We are in a debt burden that is in fact pushing down our necks and pushing it so badly, we're so indebted. So the question will be, you're seeing new borrowings. And this government had laid the fears that they will not borrow, they will not do all of those things that will impoverish Nigeria, but we are seeing new borrowings. We are seeing proposal for more borrowings. How can you make sense of that to an average Nigerian who believes that our children's children will be made to pay for all of these debts?
Sean, borrowing is not a problem. What you borrow the money to do is the issue at hand, and the plan to pay back. First, this government has taken a very bold step in solving or paying back some of the indebtedness, some of the hanging debt on the neck of this country is being fastly repaid. And so we have a little bit of latitude to have some borrowing now. And there is a clear way of payment plan. If you borrow and you don't have a payment plan, that's where you run into problem. This borrowing is specifically going to fund infrastructure. And the truth about the matter is, if you don't develop infrastructure, there is no way you can develop the economy. And so The borrowing has been planned in such a way that it's not going to linger on. The payment plan has been scheduled in such a way that the idea of our children will not come into play. Yes.
Which infrastructure, Honorable? Which infrastructure? Because you know the details of the budget. What are the infrastructures that these borrowings will go for? Because we're seeing an 8.6 billion naira loan, which, and there are those experts saying that it will take our debt burden to about 51 billion naira. The president is taking about 7.1 trillion naira loan. Which are the infrastructures that the president is looking to service this loan with?
Sure. One of the core indicators of resolving our economic problem in this country is job creation. This country must develop our human capital. The most important way of growing an economy is developing human capitals. We must develop our human capital, and that is a way to make our people more self-sustaining. The truth about the matter is this: most of our borrowing to fund infrastructure were not properly placed. You put, for example, a road that that require 500 billion, for example. You borrow money and split it on several projects. We must be able, and this is what this budget tries to achieve, we must be able to identify specific projects so that the money we are borrowing will be used for those specific projects. For example, you go to Ministry of Works. We have a project that has lingered for about 10, 15, 20 years. And prices keep increasing. So what this government has devised now is that we will identify, and those projects have been identified in each of the geopolitical zones. If it is 5 roads we can do in a year, we will do that, and we know this one is done.
Well, Honorable, what are these projects? Can you mention these projects that have been identified in these regions?
One of the key projects is road. Nigerians are not lazy people. Most of us are businessmen. We trade, we move goods from one place to the other. The fastest means by which we move in this country is road. If that is not in place, we are in problem. Even though loan has been taken to fund these infrastructures, the scheduling of the projects didn't help the project itself. And that is why this government is refining the way we are going to schedule our payment for those infrastructures. We can't put all the infrastructure one together. We can't achieve it. Our budget cannot accept it. So what this government is doing is identify specific roads. 1, 2 in a region. Put enough money in the budget, fix that. Next year, take another one. Even though, of course, everybody in this country and Nigerian, they deserve attention of the government, but the government cannot touch everybody at once. We have tried it, we have failed. And that's
Honorable, sorry, apologies, you have quite not answered my question, because Nigerians tonight will want to know which of these roads. You said they've been selected in regions. I asked which of the infrastructure, you said road. I said, which roads in this region can you identify for us so that we can put our minds to it? Which of the roads in this region?
I may not be able to identify the specific roads, but this is what we agreed. We will identify roads. Ministry of Works has identified routes that are key, important to each of the region. 1, 2. How much is going to fund the completion of the project? Put it in the budget. It's not my duty to identify the most important road. Ministry of Works have their own role to play. This road has been identified. Even though several roads need to be attended to, but we take 1, 2, and we fund, and we go. Next year, we take another one.
So what I'm saying. Just a moment. Let me take you up quickly on this. Now, I do not know how much of urgency the president is looking at the production, which will help us generate foreign exchange if we are exporting it, because that's one major way you can earn foreign exchange. Because if you're not producing anything to sell to the rest of the world, you can't get the foreign currency to be able to run your life. Based on the fact that our lives are literally run by the state and the quality and the value of the dollar. And unfortunately, the value of our own currency is depreciating. The question is, how much of urgency is the President Tinubu putting in Nigeria producing? I mean, his friend, they ran together, had the popular saying, from consumption to production. Is President Tinubu able to take Nigeria from consumption to production? How long are we going to be a consuming nation?
So nobody is in doubt as to the determination of Mr. President along this line. You will see that everywhere he goes, all he asks for is come into my country, come and invest. And he has been able to secure commitment from several of these international bodies. Just like you have said earlier on, without having these hard currencies, for us to grow will be very difficult. And of course, we don't have it. So the best way, or the only option for Mr. President is to approach those who have to come and invest. Take us from good producing farms to final goods that you can export. He was in Saudi Arabia, achieved the same thing. All his moves has been geared towards inviting investors to the country, bring your hard currency, and the environment will make conducive for you to be able to make profit out of your investment. And within the shorter period of time, you will equally see the effect, because you have seen that 2 or 3, he was in China, signed MOU, same thing in Saudi Arabia.
Honorable, apologies. You are talking about FDI. I'm not talking about FDI. I'm talking about local production. FDI is...
She'll get this thing right. Nigerians, like I said, are not lazy. But we need foreign component to be able to produce.
But what have we resolved as a people to produce? What have we resolved as a people to produce, Honorable? Is the budget the president presented proposing, assuming, or also thinking about the fact that we need to take, for example, I can mention 5 areas or 5 things that Nigeria has in abundance that we can produce and export to the rest of the world. Cassava, for example, ethanol can be gotten out of it. You can consume gari in large quantity. And then I saw gari the other day in London. I mean, the issue of our oil, gas on the ground, we understand that there's an agreement with Germany. There are so many rubber, cocoa, palm oil. These are things that we have on the ground. How much of these are we able to internalize? Is this budget thinking about it? Are we applying some investment in local production? I'm not talking about foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment that you gain today will not materialize until after a year or more. But immediately, what is the local production looking like in the Tinubu's proposition?
I told you earlier on that one of the focus of this budget is job creation and poverty reduction. The ways of going about this is to increase our capacity to be able to produce. That's job creation itself. Reducing poverty. It is why we empower the youth that poverty will be reduced. Social development is why we assist, for example, like in education, student loan, that many people will be able to go to school, study the exact course they have in mind, and be able to develop on their own. These are already embedded in the budget. These were the first things I mentioned earlier on, that this is the main focus of this government.
So apologies, Honorable. You're quite mixing up my point. The other question I asked, you mixed up with FDI. This time around, you are mixing with the welfare tendency of this government. I'm talking about local production, Honorable. I'm not talking about human capital development, which are the areas you're touching on. I'm saying is, for example, if our refineries are working, if this government is thinking that we will increase or we will partner with Dangote and make sure that we are self-sufficient in refining oil on the ground in Nigeria, is Port Harcourt going to be working? Is Warri Refinery going to work? These are local production. In terms of rubber, in terms of cocoa, in terms of maize, in terms of rice, I'm talking about local-based production, not welfare, not handouts. That's not what I'm talking about, Honorable.
You see, one of the biggest way of developing an economy is not necessarily the giant one that we are trying to produce. For example, cluster farming is one of the things this government is planning. Everybody has one benefit they have in terms of production in their community. For example, in the state, we have yam, we have cassava. And government is thinking of establishing cluster farming to grow these items within the environment where it is produced. And that is one of the ways government is thinking of reducing poverty. This is exactly what I'm talking about here. This is one of the ways government is thinking of creating jobs. I want to help you the other time because we are talking about dollar. And I said, government is already thinking of bringing this hard currency to the country in a way to show up and increase the value of Naira.
All right. Honorable, quickly, let me, I have two-tier questions, and I have just about 60 seconds. That's what my guys are telling me from the control room now, because we need to switch to another issue. But quickly, I'd like to ask you the expected effect of this budget. In 30 seconds, can you do that, sir?
Well, like I said earlier on, it is expected that at the end of the implementation of this budget, the economy of this country will improve for the better. I am an optimist, but I won't tell you that all our problems will be solved within this financial year.
Again, revenue, for example, honorable apologies, revenue, for example, is one way that, I mean, one thing, aspect of this budget that a lot of people think, where are we going to get that money from? Where we perform, I mean, below par, based on the expectation, the assumption in the last budget on revenue generation. Now, in fact, the revenue generation and assumption in this budget is way higher. The president is even assuming in this budget that our growth rate will be higher than what even IMF. IMF downgraded us. Where is this optimism coming from?
The optimism is coming from the first move of Mr. President. You know, the first thing Mr. President did was to bring experts in tax matters to see how we can improve in our tax. You saw it was publicized everywhere. The intention of Mr. President is to tap into all the areas where we have not been able to tap into. Reduce tax from where there is to be reduced and increase where there is to be increased in such a way that the low earners will pay less and those who earn more will pay more. And that's the essence of the whole thing. The president is highly, you know, he's an accountant himself. He has worked in this area. He definitely understands what it means to harmonize our tax use and be able to achieve the best of taxation.
Honorable,
for example,
I'm due to close this conversation, please. Apologies. One thing that also comes to mind is the manner in which the president wanted, he was pleading with them that they should expedite action on this. And I'm wondering how this can happen within the next few days. Not lawmakers will go on recess. You've been in the National Assembly. In 30 seconds, if you can tell us,
yes,
how soon can this budget, you think, can be passed? Because there are a few loopholes that they are already finding in the budget.
From my interaction with members immediately after the budget was submitted, I can see commitment from members and their readiness to work. Even if possible, decision their break to be able to achieve this. And this you see in what happened today. The budget was laid for the first time, first reading, and it was passed to the second reading, and it was transferred straight for committee stage. And immediately, you know, the committee will go into different committees to examine the budget for each of the agencies and ministries. This, in some climate, may take like a week, 2 weeks, but this they are able to do in a day. And from my interaction again, most of the committees will be ready to work even during the weekend to be able to achieve the goal of Mr. President. Because the truth about the matter is that all hands must be on deck to ensure that we get this thing done.
Honorable Kunle Ibrahim Olarewaju, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly Matters, House of Reps, and a former member of the House of Representatives in the 9th Assembly. Thank you so much indeed, Honorable, for your time tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you.